homies, welcome to the Sailor Moon Fan Club podcast. I'm your host, Victoria L. Johnson, and I'm here with Ashley Griffin, aka Multifacetedacg, and she's the part owner and creative director of Math G Productions. She's a YouTuber, she's also a host of an Album a Day podcast, and she's a writer with a focus on K-pop commentary, and of course she is a Sailor Moon fan. So I'm super happy to have her on the show. Hey Ashley, how you doing?
Hey there, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So the first question I ask everyone is, what's your first memory of watching Sailor Moon?
Oh man, my first memory of watching Sailor Moon, I was certainly a sixth grader growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and I just remember coming from lunch break actually, and they had a video on in the cafeteria. And I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was a girl spinning around with a wand in her hand, and she was changing clothes. And I was so excited. So I asked my classmates, and they're like, "That's Sailor Moon. Like, you don't know?" And I'm like, "No, I have no idea." So they told me what time it came on local television, so I could watch it. And I got sucked in. So I was a young girl, but it was really, really exciting to me.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've never heard of a school playing Sailor Moon before, so that's really exciting to know that was happening in some places.
I think they were just trying to find something for us to be entertained
Mm-hmm.
with because I went to a specialty middle school that had a very different system from the rest of the Detroit public school system, which I mean even now at this point in time it's not even called DPS anymore. It has a whole different name. But there was a lot of freedom and flexibility around our schedules to be able to experience some cool stuff. And honest to goodness, if it was not for that one moment, I would have not known.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. I'm always really hyped to hear about people who came to Sailor Moon outside of like Toonami, just because like it's just an interesting journey.
Yeah, and I had no idea that I had no idea it was Japanese first and foremost
Mm-hmm.
because in those days the chances of you getting your hands on a sub versus dubbed was extremely limited. I knew Dragon Ball Z was because that's what was around when I was a kid, but I
Right.
had no idea Sailor Moon was still within the same arm of that. So it was really, really interesting for me many, many years later as a grown woman finally watching the original episodes. And I'm like, yo, this is way different than how I understood it. This is far different from what it is in the manga. Like, it was a whole new world all over again.
Right. Yeah, I can only imagine. How did that feel? Like, what differences did you notice immediately?
Um, man, first off, the nostalgia, just the nostalgia of being able to identify aspects of it that I remembered as a kid. I didn't remember compared to the Japanese anime how the one that has the actual Japanese language in use, the way that they introduced each character. I didn't remember that, but the whole process of it all and just the energy of it, it was really really interesting for me. I jumped back into it right around the time that the original Pokemon from when I was a kid started re-airing again, and both of them, just it was a lot of moments of just joyful tears because it's so exciting to see something from your childhood still have so much energy behind it while you're an adult, and to
Right.
see all these new fans or people who I didn't even know were fans like losing their minds about it on social media. It was a really, really cool moment.
Yeah. That is really cool. And did you have a favorite Sailor Scout you wanted to be?
Oh man, my sailor is Sailor Mars.
Yeah.
She is my absolute favorite. Something about Ray just, oh man, she's just so freaking cool. And red's my favorite color. She had on red. She was the only one who had on high heels when I was a sixth grader, and I'm like, what is this? Who's this big girl with these
These
heels on? She was
red
so
pumps.
solid and confident in herself. I really wanted to be her. I really did.
Yeah, those red pumps are iconic.
I
And I think
know.
the creator Naoko Taiuchi has said too that that's like one of her favorite looks, like those shoes. Like she's like, I want those shoes.
And the cool thing about it, I didn't find
Mhm.
it out until years later when I started actually trying to learn more about the Japanese language.
Mhm.
And her name, Hino Ray, means like fire filled array. Like she literally, her name is fiery. So it's just, oh my gosh, she's just so freaking dope. And she was the big sister of all of them for the most part. No, she's not the chosen one who's called to protect everyone. She's not Sailor Moon, but
Mhm.
she's still the big sister role. And in my circle of friends, I usually assume that role too. So it's really cool. She's just so badass to me.
Yeah. Yeah, she is pretty badass. Sailor Mars is awesome. And then so now you have a company, you have a YouTube channel, you are doing a lot.
Yeah.
How did multifaceted ACG come about?
Well, multifaceted ACG, that whole hodgepodge of a name, it really is my name. It's the word multifaceted and then my initials for my government name. But
Hmm.
I've always been heavily involved in a lot of different things at different times in life. And when that name kind of got dropped on me by choice of YouTube handle, I was newly living in Houston, Texas. I was born here, but I grew up in the D, and I've lived in a lot of other states and things of that sort. But I had just moved to Houston, Texas, and I decided I wanted to do this whole YouTube thing because at the time YouTube was what, maybe 4 5 years old. Like that sounds so weird to say that. Let me double check. When was YouTube founded?
Oh gosh, I think
It
it
was such a
was,
throwback. Let's see, YouTube
I want to say like
founding, because now I want to
2005.
horrify myself with the math.
I know. I always think about that. Like, I remember YouTube when YouTube was new and I was in high school, and it was so new that it was one of the sites they hadn't blocked yet. Because,
Yeah.
they would block, like, social media sites. Like, I think they blocked MySpace, but they didn't block YouTube yet. So we would, like, watch, like, Family Guy clips. It
Oh my
was so
gosh.
bad.
YouTube was founded Valentine's Day 2005, and I got on there
Mm.
January of 2013. So it wasn't that old. Ew, that's so strange. It wasn't that old yet. But my
Mm-hmm.
initial plan was to get on there and just do vlogging, just talk about what was going on in the news and kind of bond with people in that way. And then I got heavily sucked into K-pop October the year prior,
Mm-hmm.
and it just became my thing. I started as a music video reactor, so I was an MV reactor, and then I got heavily invested in Got7, so I started creating content that was around them. And I've done KCON panels, I've done other exhibits and conferences around the country talking about it from the area of music production and uh, songwriting to cultural misappropriation to any and everything in between. I've done consulting for films and TV shows about it. I've been a ambassador reporter in South Korea. So there's a lot of unexpected energy of that confidence that had I not even thought about it until I found out about this great podcast. A lot of it reminds me of Ray. Like she knew what her role was and she knew what she needed to bring to the table in terms of contributing to the dojo that she is a part of and being involved in everything that's going on as a sailor soldier. Like it's just, it's crazy to see that same fiery energy that she had, that I admired so much from her, now I get to do it in my work.
Yeah. And I think the same thing, like, you talk about like being multifaceted, like you obviously like are like working through all these different avenues and like the things you care about. But also that's the thing I love about Sailor Moon is that all the characters are like multifaceted as well. Like they love multiple things, they care about multiple things, they are interested in multiple things. They have different aspects of personality. I use Sailor Jupiter a lot as an example because she's like the
Yeah.
tomboy, but she loves to cook, and then it's like she also has the soft side because she like likes boys, but also she's really tough, and it just yeah.
And like it's perfect that you said that, how Sailor Jupiter has, her balance, the things that she does in servitude, but the things that she also does as a sailor. Like for Ray, Ray was like huge on pop culture. Like she really loved it and she loved music and music is my passion. It's my absolute passion. She played the guitar and I think maybe the piano and I can't play the piano or the guitar naturally. I have to do it with computers because I produce music that way. So just the parallels that not necessarily parallels. That's a bit of a reach, but just the similarities are really exciting to me. That a female character, when I was very young and extremely impressionable, had such an impact on me that even to this day, as a grown woman, I mean solidly grown. I'm in my mid 30s. As a grown woman, I can still look at that character and be like, man, like I still want to be like her. And she's a teenager, so it's really cool that those similarities are there.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the one thing like Teuchi made very impressionable characters that we can all like kind of look up to still even as we get older.
I
Oh.
agree. I really
Yeah.
do. And it's just a lot of foresight. Like being 53. Is she 53 now? Yeah, like she's like 50, early 50s maybe. Lord have
I
mercy. I'm
think
not
so, yeah.
completely certain, but just to have that much of a understanding of the characters that she created and how they have really
Mhm.
stood the test of time. There's hundreds and hundreds of manga and anime and there's a multitude of artists, but she really created something that has withstood decades and that longevity is something that everybody wishes for. When you create something, when it's art, you want it to be around for many generations to appreciate. So she really did a number on a global scale in terms of impact.
Yeah, totally. Totally, totally. It's very admirable. And so you mentioned your favorite K-pop group is Seven, I think.
Got
Is that what you-
seven. Yeah, they're
Got Seven. I'm sorry.
they're
Oh,
my babies.
yeah.
I've been a fan of them since pre-debut. They were on a competition show that allowed you to meet some of the members, but I am a multi fan. I do listen to quite a bit as well as celebrate everybody's successes, but Got Seven is like my super big deal group.
Yeah.
I'm also known for liking NCT a lot. I say I'm their 25th member because there's so many of them. Yeah, but I do enjoy it. I have seen I wouldn't say attended because that's not quite right because some
Mm.
things I go to or festivals or whatnot there's multiple people, but I've seen well over 100 Korean pop acts in the past 7 years, like all over the United States, everywhere in Korea. So
Mhm.
a big music head.
Yeah, that's cool. And how long were you in Korea?
I was there for 2 years, from September of 2017 until October of 2019. And I am back stateside to finish graduate school. Then I'm going back over there.
Oh, wow. You really loved it then.
Yeah, it had a when I man when I came across K dramas and K pop in 2012, there was absolutely no way. You could not have told me just a day before that I was going to fall into all of this stuff and it was going to change my life to
Mhm.
the point where I'm living over there. I would have never believed it, but I definitely do value the experiences I had over there and the accessibility to the kind of lifestyle I want to live. So it's a good
Right.
fit for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was actually there when you were there, which is
Oh,
funny. I'm like,
wow,
oh, I
that's
wish we
so
knew each other.
cool. What
I
area
was
were you in?
oh gosh, where were we? I forgot where we stayed, but we stayed in Seoul for it was me and my friend. We stayed in Seoul for like a few days, and then we went to Busan, near Haeundae
Yeah,
Beach, and then we
Hyundai.
went to yeah, and then we went to Jeju Island for a few days, and then back to Seoul, and then I forgot where we stayed though. I feel so bad. I feel messed up, but
It's
we
so many
definitely
places. Just those
so
general
many.
markers help so much. But that's awesome that you got to
Yeah.
experience Hyundai. It's nothing like that eclectic area
Oh,
at all. And
I
Jeju is
loved
so
it.
beautiful. I lived in Daegu. I lived in an area where, yeah, they speak English, but you better know some Korean. So I spent
Got it.
all my time in Daegu, but I definitely had work on weekends in Seoul.
Mm-hmm.
All of the foreigners there, we pretty much take our vacation time around the same time. So Busan is the place. But I also
Mm-hmm.
went to parts of Tokyo while I was there. It was really important to me to go to the Pokemon Center because I was a young girl when the first Pokemon Center was ever built, and it's been a dream of mine since I was a kid to
Mm-hmm.
experience it. So I did get to go to a Pokemon Center, and I went insane with excitement over that. I didn't get to see too much Sailor Moon stuff, but I got to stop by
Mm.
some of the places associated with some of my other favorite anime. So I really enjoyed the experience while I was over there, and I'm hopeful to get back there within 3 years.
Yeah, I was so we out during that trip. This was in I think September 2017. We dipped over to Japan for 4 days too since we were there. We're like, let's just take
It's
advantage
so
of this
futuristic.
long flight to it's so futuristic. And also but I was also disappointed that I didn't see as much Sailor Moon stuff over there. I was expecting to see it everywhere, but
I agree.
um it made sense. One of my friends who lives there mentioned he was like, it's older, like, and they have all this new anime out now. Like, that's kind of the focus. Like, that's the new thing. So, like, it made sense, like, why they wouldn't. But it would still made me really sad.
I totally agree with you because it's one of the best ones of all time, and that's not the fangirl in me saying that. Like
Right.
statistically speaking, it's invincible, dude. You're always gonna find
Mm-hmm.
someone at some convention who is dressed like a sailor. It's that much of a legendary anime and manga. So
Mm-hmm.
it was shocking to see that. But I did see a lot of other stuff that was cool. I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
Sword Art Online fan. That's my
Yeah.
absolute favorite of all time. Like the only thing that comes second is Sailor Moon. So Sailor Moon was my first, and then and then Pokemon. But no, when Sword
Mm-hmm.
Art Online came out, that jumped straight to the forefront. So being able to see some of that stuff around still, even though that's a few years old now, it's just and it's just so high tech, so futuristic there. And then you'll end up somewhere at a cross section and you'll see a Denny's and you're like, yo, I'm having an existential crises. Like, why do I see
Yeah.
Denny's here or Burger King? It's so wild how the cultures have just intermingled over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, globalization is real.
It's so
Um,
real.
Yeah. I think I went to Pizza Hut in South in Seoul, and that was different
How was your
though.
experience with the pizza there? Pizza in Korea is so wild.
It's so different. I've had really good pizza in there, and I had really good pizza in near Haeundae Beach. Me and my friend, we would go there like almost every night. It was so sad and get their pizza because I'm like, why are we in South Korea eating pizza? But
It's
it was
so
so good.
good.
But the Pizza Hut pizza I actually didn't like because it was I think they had like mayo and barbecue sauce on it and like corn, and I was just like, no,
That's
this
Korea
this
for
is
you.
not the pizza
They
I know. Yeah,
definitely think corn is a real topping. It's
right.
oh my god, yeah. I miss home. Like I'm home, but I do miss my other
Yeah,
cuckoo crazy home.
yeah. What was your favorite thing about being there?
As a black woman, the safety. Now, that's not coming
Mm,
from a space of being naive to the fact that there are some horrible things that happen all over the world, and Korean
right.
women experience a lot of the hardships and difficulties that I experience here as a black woman. Not to the
Mm,
same degree because they're not black, but likewise for me over there, not to the same degree because I'm not Korean. But I could
right.
be out and at any given time, no matter what, taking a walk at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. I felt safe, I felt secured, and that's something that in the entire 35 years of my life here, I've not had the pleasure of experiencing as an American citizen. So that was very interesting for me, and just their assumption that life is fast paced there for them, perhaps. For me, it was a very doable pace after living in
Mm-hmm.
some of the places I've lived here: Detroit, Minnesota, California, and now Texas. I've lived in some of, if not the largest cities in North America, and the pace of work and demand is slightly comparable, but I could handle it very well over there. So it's a level of peace of mind. Although I do all these things that we mentioned and I own a company and whatnot, my 9 to 5 job, if you will, is I am an English teacher. I'm a certified English as a foreign or second language instructor. So I did get to Korea by teaching English, but now here back in the United States, I teach it to recent immigrants, adult immigrants. And just being able to be a part of the academia, the academic field in Korea, where there's like a 98% literacy rate and whatnot, there's a level of competitiveness there where, yes, you have to learn and you need to be the best, but every single teacher has a different way of cultivating that learning. So it was exciting for me to be a part of helping young minds learn how to think for themselves. There's a lot of hive minds in some areas of the world. I will never just sweepingly generalize and say other places is no, no, no. There's a hive mind effect to a lot of different places in the world. So being a part of helping these young kiddos figure out how to make their own thoughts and own decisions for themselves was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I can definitely attest to that too. Like being in Tokyo and Seoul was the first time I ever felt comfortable approaching police officers for
Yeah,
help.
yeah.
Like I was just like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to feel. Like I should be able to like go up to you, be like, oh, I need help with this thing, or I need directions, or I need like, whatever, and not feel like am I gonna be risking my
So
life to talk to
true.
this person?
So true.
Um yeah, and it helped that they don't have guns, which helps. But also just like I didn't feel that like they're gonna be aggressive or like, anything towards me. It was just like, oh, I need help. Let me talk to this police officer. And I was like, wow, this is the first time I've ever felt like this.
That's so real. And you
Mm-hmm.
come back home to America and you share that with people and they're like, "Really?" And it's such a far thing for so many of us. It's so far off for so many of us. So I'm glad that you were able to have that experience. It's always nice to meet other people who have been able to go somewhere and they're like, the first thing that dawned on me, not just the awe and excitement of being somewhere different, but the fact that I felt safe in that. I felt safe to be a tourist, or I felt safe to blend in, even though skin color wise I don't blend in at all. But it was
Yeah.
a really good feeling.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, like you said, like not like to diminish, like obviously there's some instances of racism. I
Absolutely.
didn't come across too much in Seoul, but definitely more in Busan where it's like a little more countryside.
Really? You had it happen
Yeah.
in Busan? I had it happen in Seoul. I had it happen in Gangnam. I got
Really?
left by a whole bus and several
Wow.
taxis.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Busan
The
though.
only the only thing that happened to me in Seoul, but I don't know if it was a racial thing, but it could have been, is that I went to a club and the coat check people were really rude to me. And I was just like, is it because I'm black or are y'all just rude? Like
Oh.
what's going on? But yeah, but I mean, even in Busan, it wasn't bad. It was just like I'm curious about your hair, and it was just like, this is like awkward. But they were like older Korean people, so I was like, I get it, like, but still, this is weird. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it wasn't like negative. It was just, yeah,
Just
but
different. It was
just
just
different.
different.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like, oh, you don't know, this is bad, or like whatever. But yeah, um, but yeah, so yeah, it's so cool to talk to people like you said that have been overseas, and it's really cool that you've not only good experience of like being with like everyday people, like talking and like teaching, but also like doing like all these amazing things with K-pop. What's your favorite K-drama?
Oh man, my favorite K drama is The Heirs. Um,
Oh.
I'm not a big K drama fan because even here home in America, I'm not a big TV fan. Music is my everything, but I do watch because it helps me now that I'm not in Korea. It helps me just to reinforce my comprehension skills when I'm listening to the language. I can
Hmm.
spit it out of nowhere, but when you're not hearing something, when you're not using something, like my Japanese is gone. I can pick up on a few words here and there, but the things that I learned as a middle schooler when I was heavily trying to understand the language and whatnot, it's gone.
Hmm.
So I do watch K dramas. Airs is my favorite. I'm a huge fan of Lee Min Ho, so I'm currently watching the one that he's starring in on Netflix,
The
and
king.
I
Yeah.
love it. I just right before our recording, I just
Hmm.
finished the last episode, and I'm screaming inside. Like
Oh my
I don't know
god.
why they won't let us binge it, but I enjoyed that. Mainly
Hmm.
things that have action involved are my favorites.
Hmm.
I'm not a very big romantic person in any language, any culture. Um, but if it's Lee Min Ho, I always make an exception because I love him.
Me
What's
too.
one of your favorites?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I love Emo too. Like obviously, Boys Over Flowers was my
Oh
first.
man,
City Hunter I thought was great. Goblin is another one of my favorites. Love from Another Star. There's another one called 2 Weeks. I don't know if you've heard
I
of it. You
heard
might
of
like
two
it.
weeks and the
Yeah.
I don't know here in America if the thumbnail for it is the same as it was in Korea, but like they always pick the most dramatic scenes for
Oh
their
yeah.
thumbnails for Netflix. I'm like,
It's like her
jeez.
bleeding.
Yeah,
I think.
right?
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah. No, it's so good though. Like it's like the level of 24 to me. Like it's just like intense, but it was so good.
That's
Um
dope.
yeah. Um yeah. Iris I also really liked. I had a really big K-drama phase from like 2000, not phase I would say cuz I still love K-dramas, but I was like more heavy into it from like 2009 to I want to say like 2013, 2014. So it's funny that by the time I went to South Korea, I wasn't like as heavy into it, but like being there, I was just like like all those feelings came back and I got
Right?
super excited. And I was like, I feel like I'm walking in a K drama.
I actually did by mistake.
That happened to me too.
I didn't realize that they don't really block off like Hollywood. Okay, I lived and worked in
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood, and I know that for people who don't go to California, who don't go to Los Angeles, Hollywood seems like it's a destination. It's literally just 2.5 blocks. But
Mm-hmm.
I was used to there being like notices on doors and things well in advance to let you know that a show or a film is recording and you can't be in that area. Korea don't care. You just come around a corner from a building and you're like, oh snap. Like you in the middle of a set out of nowhere. So that was a
Yeah.
little jolting for me.
No, was it? I'm curious because I came across people who were recording a K drama, but I wasn't sure if it was like a student project or it was like a real thing because it was only like it was like a small camera crew and then like the two actors. So I'm like, is this? And it was like late at night and it was raining.
It might be very real. They don't have,
Okay.
well, not always. I won't generalize and say that they don't have as many people out and about for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it legit happens where you just walk up on something and you're like, I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of something I wasn't supposed to be in the middle of.
Yeah. What was the scene you saw?
I,
Or
it was a couple at a coffee shop, and I don't know what the
mm,
dialogue was or anything because I was with one of my friends and we were so startled that we were in the way that we were just like trying to shuffle off. But all I can remember all I can remember is the cameras were there, they were recording, and then me and her were like, oh no, and you can hear our feet shuffling trying to get away. And I'm like, I wonder how much work they had to do to edit that out because we were
oh my
so nervous
god.
about it. Like
Right.
you don't want to be in somebody's stuff. That's like being in a photo
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't intend to photo bomb it. Like I just
Right.
ugh.
Yeah. I wonder I'm like, is there a K drama out there with you in the background? Like,
There's a variety show with me in the background, but it
really?
predominantly put my sister. My sister is also a YouTuber and a content creator. Her name
Mm,
is Jessica, but she's better known as the Just Life. And
okay.
my sister and I and a few of our friends were actually present for a filming of Infinite Challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ooh.
she's literally in the clips, like you clearly see her. They made sure to put the camera on her. So yeah, it's moments like that. It's a lot of those moments that happen that are just bizarre and wild that go
Mm-hmm.
on in my world. So yeah.
Yeah. That is really cool. I think the scene I saw was this guy. It was a couple again, but they were like I think she was about to leave and he like grabbed her arm and like pulled her into like a hug and I was like
Oh my god, it's so stereotypical. I love
it was.
it.
I was like that's that thing that happens in a lot of K dramas. Super hype.
It's so cute to see it, and then you gotta stand there
Hmm.
and watch them hold that for a whole 15 count. Like it's
Right.
just It's a whole system to it all to make those moments be those moments.
Yeah, after a while it got a little awkward because I wanted to stop and be like, what's this? Like, what are you filming for? We were with my cousin who lives there. And so he speaks fluently. And I was just like, I was going to ask him, like, can you ask them the name of this? Like, I want to watch it now. I can be like, I saw them when they were filming.
I saw that when they were doing it. Yeah, that
right.
is dope to genuinely be able to be like, I was there.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, because it was such a small crew, I was like, maybe it might not even be like a big K-drama. It might just be like a student film or, something. But yeah. But that's good to know. That I didn't know that they don't block off roads and stuff. So now I'm like, maybe it was an actual K-drama and I need to find it.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, so you've done a bunch of interviews. What's been your favorite interview? And who would be your dream interview?
My favorite interview would have been Miyavi, because it was so brief and I had to ask exactly what I needed to ask. There was a tour that he did a few years back. He did it with a group called Kiha and the Faces from Korea, who I love that group. They've disbanded. While I was living there, they disbanded. And I was wearing my shirt the day that they announced it. So Miyavi, Ishihara, Kiha and the Faces, and then a Thailand-based band called Slot Machine, who are basically like the freaking Beatles of their country. And I got to do an interview with all three of them, but I was shook if beyond compare when it came to coming to Miyavi. Just the fact that he's as tall as he is, and the way that I feel about music, like when you're watching that man perform, you literally feel like you just looked in on something you weren't supposed to see. It's that incredible. And he was so professional, so polite to all of us who were losing our entire minds. It was one of the dopest things I had ever experienced. My dream interview, and I've been very vocal about it, and it had almost happened. It genuinely did almost happen by the strength of my fans. I call my fan base the Megwalas. It takes my initials and it takes koala, because I love those animals. Dogs, rabbits, and koalas are my favorite, and I just thought it would be a little rude to call them dogs. So they ended up being koalas, that's why it's my logo. But my Megwalas really, really pushed for it. At one point in time, I was working for K-pop stars, and we were called upon to cover GOT7's first U.S. tour. Now, this wasn't Fly, which was their genuine first concert tour. This was a showcase tour. And everyone in the office knows how I feel about them. They're like, oh, screw it. Let's call Ashley in Texas and see if she can go. I almost had the interview. They ended up giving it to two friends of mine. They're content creators as well, Nutty Nomads. And they gave it to those sets of sisters instead. So I would love to interview GOT7. I know that a lot of people would have the expectation that I'm going to fangirl spaz. Prior to work, yes. Afterwards, yes. But when it comes to doing my job is to give you all unique interview experiences. I don't want to ask the same questions that everybody and their mama asks. So that's my dream interview. The only thing that would combat that as another dream, well, I won't say other thing that could combat it, because it's two. GOT7's the ideal. NCT I'd be happy to interview as well. All of them. And I would love to have a one-on-one with BTS Suga. I am a huge fan of him, but it would have nothing to do with BTS as a whole. I want to talk music with that man. I want to sit in a studio session with him and just write about the vibe and help people understand that there's a method to the madness that needs to be explored from a literary side. I would love to write about that and share it with the fans. I really would.
That sounds amazing. I really hope you get to do that, because that sounds like something I want to read or see.
Yeah, just to be like, whoa, when he comes in the studio, like he turns on a humidifier, so, there's moisture. Like, just the things that you don't think about. We think of music as the final product. We don't think about the composition and the process, and looking up and you went in the studio at 11 o'clock, and the next time you look, it's 4 a.m. because you're so zoned in. I want to be there for a 24-hour experience.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always wanted to do, is like sit in on any artist that I love, just like for a recording studio session, because I feel like it happened a lot in like the 90s and early 2000s, or even before that. Like, it was much more normal for journalists to kind of like spend a whole like day or week with an artist. And so that would be really cool.
Totally. It would be so crazy.
Mm-hmm. That would be you. And you do a lot of reaction videos too. What would you say makes a good reaction video?
When I started with reactions, I was actually visibly in them. And the misconception for the reaction community is that we make a lot of money doing this. No, we don't. We do not. And I'm actually at a point in my it sounds so lame to say career, but my career on YouTube where I've turned off my monetization for several years at this point. I make content because it allows me to connect with the fandom and it allows me to have something that's a little bit different from the professional side as being a digital journalist in this or being a consultant. So now what I do is I react to things that I see on Twitter and I put that on my channel instead. And they're short, they're straight to the point, they're hilarious, and it's over and done with. The biggest thing with a reaction, you have to be genuine. You cannot fake enthusiasm. You cannot fake the excitement to try to have something snazzy in the hopes that it's going viral. I couldn't care less. I'm genuinely that dorky about things I'm excited about, and it has nothing to do with the YouTube camera being on or not. So the first thing, the first priority is authenticity. Never fake who you are and what you are for the sake of some views. That's the most inauthentic thing you can do. The second thing is not believing that you have to have particular cameras and technology to get it done. People will find your content if you're making content you're excited about because you're going to share it. I had my big blow up by the work of other people. I made my content and it was fine, and I was excited about sharing it with my friends and my family. After I did KCON in 2013, JRE, no, 2014, I'm sorry. 2013 was my first KCON. I did KCON as a guest panel moderator in 2014, and I hadn't even been on the scene that long. I had only been a content creator for a year. He saw what I did and was kind enough to do a collaboration with me, and through that brought thousands of other eyes I never would have gotten. Then I did a reaction to something from the Royal Palace, which is the dance crew in New Zealand, and they saw it and shared it. And then years later, my sister, who has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, even though we've been on YouTube at different intervals of time, it is her full time work alongside being a photographer. This is just my platform to be goofy and silly. And she made a post one day and was like, "My sister is so close to 10,000 subscribers. Show her some love and go follow her page." So my growth has always been bumped by others who see it. I don't take that kindness for as an advantage. I see it as people just genuinely respecting that I have fun doing what I'm doing and they feel like it was worth sharing with others.
Yeah, you have over 10,000 subscribers now, as you said, and they do look like you're having fun. There was one I watched where you were like, "Oh, I got to keep it down because like people are sleeping," but I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if that's gonna work, but okay.
It's harder than not. And I'm really like, when people find out how old I am, they're like, "Really, you're still that excited?" Heck yeah, I'm still that excited. I
Mm.
have moments driving I'm a huge gratitude person. I'll have moments when I'm just in my car and a certain song will come on and I'm just like, "Dude, God's giving me so much. This is so awesome." Like
Yeah.
that's the space that I live in, and the people who watch my content, share it, click on it, leave comments. We're a community in and of ourselves, and I'm ferociously protective of these people who are protective of me. So it's something that I'm really grateful to do, and I'm grateful that MV Reacting has allowed me to be able to make all these friends around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. They always seem really fun. Would you ever do a mukbang? Or have you
I
done one?
haven't. What I
Mm.
do when I'm in the mood, I'll cook some stuff and I'll do something on my private Instagram for close family and friends. But nah, I don't think I'm gonna do a mukbang because
Mhm.
I just don't need anyone else to witness my love of food in that way. I'm a short woman, and all of my videos, for the most part, have always been from the collarbone up. So nobody knows what I look like unless they see me at a convention. They're like, "Dude, you got like a bodybuilder's body." Not on purpose. I'm pretty stacked, but if you see how I eat, I don't want people to have the arsenal to start saying, "Oh my gosh, maybe you shouldn't eat so much, you might get fat." That's none of your business if I get big or not. So
Right.
no, I don't want to do a mukbang, but I do enjoy watching them. Everything looks so good.
They do look so good. I'll be like, oh, you got
Right?
all my favorite
And then like how do
foods.
you eat all of that? And like first off, the fact that I have tuned in to watch you eat for 20 minutes is insane. And then secondly, you order up all that food and it's not a leftover in sight. Like where is it going? Like I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't me neither, but somehow it's entertaining. I'm not gonna knock it. Um they seem like it would be fun though, but yeah, I could see that how it would kind of open up to commentary that's unwanted because everything anyone does on the internet somehow is open to commentary that's
Always open
unwanted.
to commentary, and I'm very
Yeah.
confident in my body. I do enjoy working out and all of that. I've got no qualms about it. I don't care if somebody is big, small, skinny, tall. I couldn't care less, but there's already enough to contend with, so I don't want to bring that on myself.
Yeah. That is fair and fine. Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone who wants to become a YouTuber or start a podcast?
For a YouTuber, don't run away now. um, genuinely, uh, don't aspire towards making it big. It's either going to happen or it's not. It needs to be something that you're passionate about because it's very easy to burn out. YouTube is the world's largest freelance gig economy. They never refer to it as such, but it is. So do it from a place of passion and do it when you feel like it, and you can't go wrong. When it comes to podcasting, oh man, just be ready to be yourself on microphone. People have to connect with the enthusiasm and the energy that they hear in your voice. There's no face to sell whatever it is you're trying to get them excited about. It's all about your personality, even if you have an awkward one or a very serious one. And there's something for everyone. You just have to be willing to promote yourself. So that might be a tweet, that might be an email to your family and friends like, "Hey, this is something I'm working on. Do you mind sharing it with others? They might like it too." You got to be willing to self promote and you got to be willing to be real. Nobody wants a phony. Unless you say your YouTube or your podcast is skit oriented, you're telling a story, be who you are, be what you are. Someone's going to love it.
Yeah, that's so true. And we actually didn't talk about this. You have the podcast, An Album a Day. How did that come about?
I had gotten to a point where I was realizing that the content that I desire to make on YouTube, I don't have the manpower to make. I turned off my monetization and I further invested myself in my full time work as a teacher. So my income is not balling out of control. And not being, I believe in paying people for work or at least bartering. If you've done something with me, I'm going to find a way to do something on your behalf as well, because we're all out here trying to do the best we can. So when it got to a point where I had to really look at my long-term financial goals, paying for grad school out of pocket, buying more production equipment so that I can make better music for other people to use in their shows and things, I no longer had the space to afford to pay for someone to edit my videos and things. So I said, okay, you're getting ready to be in your mid 30s, and you can't MV React forever. And I had already retired for the most part from it in 2017. I'm like, what is something that allows me to not show my face, still share my personality, and share just this nerdiness that I have about music? I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm gonna listen to all the music. Now, before I started recording it, that sounded fun. Like that sounded really easy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a year in at the time of this recording, and I've only done maybe 17 acts because I'm going through the literal, genuine modern history of every single idol group that has ever existed in South Korea on a mainstream scale. I haven't even hit indie or hip hop, like specifically underground hip hop yet. So Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, I take about 10 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes of your time to go through every single album in a group's discography. And the amazing thing about it is it's been exposed to music I had never heard of that I can hear where the American or European influences are in it. Just hearing the progression of how the songwriting has evolved and the quality of production over the years, it's really interesting. I might be in 1999 one week, and then the next week I'm in 2014. It's crazy. And then you're getting reacquainted with everything, and there's something for everybody. When I did Three Racha, the producers from Stray Kids, a group who I've not listened to actively yet, their fan base flooded in. They're like, oh my gosh, it's so cool that, something spotlighted them and they shared a lot of the episodes and whatnot. That had a huge impact on my show. And then anything concerning Super M has a really huge impact on my show because you're crossing several different fandoms at once. So shout out to the listeners to that. Shout out to my Patreon patrons, the scholars and the student bodies. They are the ones who keep the show going. It allows me to be your favorite foreign Korean music historian. So I really love it.
Yeah, that's such a cool goal to have. I feel like it's how a lot of podcasts start too, when it's like, oh, this is a really fun idea, and then you're knee deep in it, and it's like, why did I do this again?
You can't back out then. But I love it. It exhausts me sometimes, but the fact that of the matter is I'm not new to podcasting, but this has taught me better structure. I had to learn how to depend on having seasons and how many episodes go in a season and how long do you take a break for. So I'm grateful for that. I really am.
That is super cool, and it's a super cool idea. And you should go subscribe to it if you're listening to this.
Oh, thank you.
And then last question, which I ask everyone, is just like how Sailor Moon in the original dub had her Sailor Moon Says phrase at the end of every episode. What would your PSA be? Sailor Ashley says.
Oh, wow. Sailor Ashley would say, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and do what you want.
Ooh. I like it. I want to end up putting all of these PSAs on my wall because everyone always gives really good advice, and I'm like, man, I need y'all to be my life coaches. And where can people find you and your podcasts and your work and everything?
You can find a lot of me on multifacetedacg.com. That's multifacetedacg. You can also find me on Twitter at multifacetedacg. There's also a link within that Twitter bio if you really want to get on the K-pop side of me to my other account, Jinju's Hallyu Fever. I'm on YouTube as Multifacetedacg, and you can find Multifacetedacg Presents an album a day on your favorite podcasting platforms.
Awesome. That was perfect. It was so
been doing it for years.
Yeah, I see. I was like, oh, you on it. And of course you can find me. I am Victoria, aka Miss Old School. It's Old School with a K on Twitter and Instagram. And also you can find the podcast at Moonies Club on Twitter and Moonies_Club on Instagram. And we're available wherever you're listening to it right now, and also Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Luminary, Audio Mac, a bunch of other places, YouTube. So yeah. And thank you, Ashley, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for your show.